India has a building taller than us. What did we do wrong? If you get nothing else out of my presentation today, and if you go and tell your kids one thing you learned from this guy from Georgia, tell them this. It's not that America is doing any worse. It is that other countries are doing well too. And that is a different perspective for people who aren't used to it. But the problem is those people are still sitting in leadership positions. And that didn't be very long. So that's my grandfather's generation. Oh, these people scare me anymore. So, then you've got my parents' generation that came of age right around 1956, 1957. Sputnik goes up in what, 1957, right? Sputnik goes up in 1957, and the wealth of the world that had been in one place starts to seep back out across the globe, as it is wont to do, as is natural. But now we have this strange geopolitical situation where we have two types of economic might fighting for power on the world. You've got capitalism, you've got capitalism on one side, you've got Marxism on the other side. So you've got communism versus market economies. And that was very real. And there's nothing wrong with saying that their worldview was the way it was, and it was right for the time. But if you're out there teaching students that when other countries do well, that is a threat to the United States, you are not positioning them to collaborate on global teams to solve international problems. You want to hear these people? Turn on talk radio. That's just teaching our kids. And probably a lot of subjects in your school. Very, very dangerous. So what do we want? We want this. We want people that can collaborate. We want people who understand that the whole idea of globalization is about having a specialty. Different countries, different areas, different locations will have a specialty in something. And the market flows to those areas. So if you're going to work in any industry on the planet, you got to find a way to set yourself apart. You got to find a way to get your resume to the top of the pile. You got to find a way to walk in there and say, why in the world would you hire these other 1,000 people if I'm the one that speaks a foreign language? And then when the company says to you, yeah, but our company doesn't do any business with Brazil, your answer is, yeah. Why hire those people? With me, you got Brazil. We're the only ones doing that, by the way. We're the only ones preparing our students for that work. Because this is the new global competitive advantage. The competitive advantage used to be the color of your skin. Used to be your gender. And yes, those companies still exist in America. They won't exist for long, but they still exist. The new competitive advantage in America, the new way, the new glass ceiling, if you will, is have you ever had a meaningful global experience and do you speak a foreign language? And that's what it looks like for us going forward. And that's what we're able to do for these students. This is what businesses need. I hear this all the time. They need regional expertise, they need cross-cultural competence, they need language proficiency. Give me those three things. How do you create regional expertise? I tell students all the time, you got to get excited about one part of the world and make that your expertise region. For me, it's Germany. I know way too much about Germany. I am not invited to parties because when Germany comes up, I will not shut up. I'm a big dork about Germany. Anybody like that with your country? Okay, very good. Yes. We go to parties with other foreign language teachers. That's kind of cross-cultural competence. Let's talk about that term, cross-cultural competence. We don't define that well. Here's what cross-cultural competence means. It doesn't mean do you make a mistake. You are going to make fascinating and embarrassing mistakes when you go overseas. Who has made a fascinating and embarrassing mistake overseas? Oh, God. It's not about the mistake. It's about the recovery. Let's do those three different generations. And I've got a very specific example. In Afghanistan, when the United States was in Afghanistan, when the war started, they first sent in the older generals to work with the tribes. And the older generals were from that sort of 1946 mentality. And they made a lot of mistakes. They went in, the big one that everyone talks about is they went in and sat down with the tribal leaders and they crossed their legs. Anybody that knows a lot about Arab culture, why is that bad? Bottom of your foot. It's considered a huge, huge, huge insult to show the bottom of your foot. Now, if you sent me over to Saudi Arabia, I would make that mistake. The question isn't do you make a mistake, the question is how do you recover. If your mindset is that 1946 mindset, you show the bottom of your foot. You know what you say to people? You know who we are? We are America. You will look at the bottom of my foot, and you will like it. But if you want to do business with us, all right, might make you feel good, but you're not going to get the job done. So then you get the other group. You get that 1957 group that comes in and sits down. They show the bottom of their foot. You're horrified. They go back and they say, okay, these people do not like the American way of life. They must be destroyed. What does a globally competent person do? A globally competent person who has made fascinating mistakes all over the world goes in and sits down, shows the bottom of their foot, realizes you're horrified, goes back and Googles showing bottom of foot in an Arab country. I'm a big idiot. Goes in and sits down and says, look, y'all, I'm a big idiot. I apologize. That was not meant as a slight. We got a job to do. How do we work together on this? Which one of those three gets the job done?
Third one.
That's all that matters anymore, is getting the job done. We've got to create this cross-cultural competence. We've got to create a situation where students understand that there are other ways to do things in the world, and that isn't bad. Because they're not being taught anywhere else. Language proficiency. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. Well, you throw language proficiency on that, you guys hate it. We had a competition in Georgia. There's a group called the Istanbul Center. And they support the teaching of Turkish language, Turkish culture. Well, there's no Turkish language being taught in Georgia. So they support the teaching of Turkish culture. And the way they do it is they have this contest called the Art and Essay Contest. And the winner of the Art and Essay Contest, the student gets to go abroad to Istanbul for 2 weeks. And I helped them set this contest up. I said, don't just take the student. Take the teacher, the principal, and the superintendent. So every year we've got these teachers, students, superintendents, and they all work together. It's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. So I went to the awards ceremony last year at Morehouse College in Atlanta. And the keynote speaker was the CFO of General Electric for the Southeast. How do you get the CFO of GE? This is probably the most successful woman I've ever met in my life. She probably makes $500,000 a year. So I went up to her afterward and I said, look, I love that you're here, but really, what are you doing here? You know, this is a minor competition for Turkish language and culture in Atlanta. And she said, I'll be honest with you. She goes, the biggest problem GE has right now in hiring is we can't find people that we can send overseas who won't make a fool of GE overseas. She goes, you show me a resume where some kid had a 3-week drinking his way across Europe in college, I'll take it. She said, we can't find people who are, yeah, you're all like, really? Go talk to EF about that. But she said, we can't find anybody who's even interested in going abroad. Wow. So, here's how this works. And this is where we have to change our story. We don't have to change what we do very much. We just have to change the story. Pre-recession, what we were doing is we were giving students global outlook. We were creating higher level thinkers. We do that. Nobody cares. It goes, you talk to any decision maker, any legislator about that, that's the same cell that science uses and math uses and language arts uses. That's the same cell that music uses. That's the same cell that PE uses. That doesn't mean anything. This, though, we give our students a competitive advantage in the increasing global economy. We give them the thing that makes the difference. Ooh, that sounds good. And it's not just a competitive advantage, by the way, for the students. It's also a competitive advantage for the community and for the school. I have a school in Georgia that is starting a dual language immersion program down in Douglas County, Georgia. Trust me, you've never heard of it. Douglasville, Georgia is starting a dual language immersion program. It's going to be Spanish. It's going to be a 50-50 model. And I asked the principal, I said, hey, would you be willing to come and talk to some other schools in your area about starting a dual language immersion program? And she said, absolutely not. And I said, why? She said, because this is our thing. She said, this is what gets companies to our area. We can now go to all across South America and sell our region to companies coming in. She's not going to tell anybody else about this.
Oh my God.
When is the last time The number one phone call I get in Gwinnett County is from parents saying, I'm about to move here. My daughter's been in the dual language immersion program somewhere else. Where can we put her when she comes in? And I say, Hall County. Atlanta Public Schools. We got nothing. I use that cell to the District Board of Education. We're starting 3 immersion schools next year. You can do that too. Whatever program we have, if you have a summative assessment of any kind in your program, be it IB, be it AP, if you're using the DELTA, if you're using the Spanish National Test, the German National Test, the French National Test, whatever your summative assessment is, you need to play the heck out of that. You need to make sure that when your students do well on that test, that is something that's shown to your state board if possible, to your local board, to your community board, because people are scared, y'all. People are scared to death about what's coming. Parents who didn't learn foreign languages are in their 40s and 50s, and they're sitting at work watching 25-year-olds shoot up the corporate ladder because they speak a foreign language, and they don't understand what went wrong. They're coming back to us and saying, why didn't you teach us foreign language? And we want to say, why didn't you fund us? What made you think having 2 years of foreign language in high school was enough to be able to do anything?
Okay, that's where I clap. Clap for me, would you?
Well, if you only ever had 2 years of math.
That's good.
Now, my setback, and the way that I kind of play this when I go out to speak to Chambers of Commerce is, it's not their fault, and it truly isn't. It wasn't a national priority. We didn't need to do it. While we were building this muscle of building the world's most powerful, most successful, most dynamic, most diverse economy, which we did, and thank goodness, I'll be really honest, thank goodness it was us, and not a lot of other ways of life that could have been. While we were doing that, this muscle, foreign language, global competence, we didn't have to build. People came to us on our terms. We own 60% of the money in the planet. Now, we own 20% of the money on the planet. We are still the biggest kid on the block. We are still the most successful, most dynamic economy on the planet. And we will continue to be. The difference is, we now have to do things on other people's terms sometimes too. You got 2 companies. Let's see you're going to sell. Who are the 2 companies that sell jet planes? There are really only 2. They're Boeing and Airbus. So you're Boeing and Airbus. You want to go to Brazil and sell planes. Boeing takes people who speak Portuguese. Airbus doesn't. Who sells the planes? Every single time. And that's all over the place. And these are the stories we hear over and over and over and over again. And parents are starting to see it. So what I love about these parents is, a lot of these are parents who don't even understand what they're asking for. They don't understand how long it takes to learn a foreign language. They don't know anything about this, but they're coming to us saying, please do this for my kid. I don't know anything about it, but I know it's important. Anybody hearing that kind of chatter? Yes. Yeah. Parents get it. Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit then about how we position ourselves to make this happen. It's in the story. It's in the story. We are the greatest tool of economic development that an area can have. A region, a state, a city, a community. We are the greatest tool of economic development that can be placed into a system. So we need to know what our essential qualifications are. We need to know, what do companies need? Here's how you don't ask the question. I learned this from the hard way. I went to Siemens. And I'm a German speaker, so I'm like, oh, Siemens will love me. Here I come. Speaking German with Siemens. So I asked Siemens, I said, you need speakers of German, right? And Siemens said, no. We need people who can show up on time, not steal, not complain, and put in a hard day's work. It's not, it's a lot of it's in how you frame the question, because that's their immediate needs. So I learned that you don't ask the people who are the managers on the floor that question. You get yourself high enough up in the company where you've got people who are dealing with the higher level staff, and you ask questions like, is global outreach an important goal for Siemens? Mm-hmm. Real? So, obviously, you're going to need people who are globally competent, and you're going to need people who speak foreign languages. And they say yes. And you go back to your principal and say, Siemens just told me we need to teach more foreign language.
Yeah, that's right.
Is it true?
Yeah.
Is it true enough?
Yeah.